Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Sri Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Gopi and Primati, whenever you're ready, you can start, Mataji. Oh, looks like she's not on the call, right? Okay.
Yeah, she said she'll be joining the session. We'll just wait for 1 minute.
Sure.
Thank you. Prabhuji, otherwise I'll read. She'll read on Wednesday, Prabhuji. If you're fine.
Sure, Mataji, that works.
Yeah. Hare Krishna to all dear devotees. Please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhatreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naisriki. Today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 26, Fundamental Principles of the Material Nature. From the text 49. Since the text 49, since the cause exists in its effect as well, the characteristics of the former are observed in the latter. That is why the peculiarities of all the elements exist in the earth alone. Text 50th. When all these elements were unmixed, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the origin of the creation, along with time, work, and the qualities of the modes of material nature, entered into the universe with the total material energy in the 7 divisions. Text 51. From these 7 principles, used into the activity and unlighted by the presence of the Lord, an unintelligent egg arose, from which appeared the celebrate cosmic being. Text 52. This universal egg, or the universe in the shape of an egg, is called the manifestation of the material energy. Its layer of water, air, fire, sky, ego, and the Mahatattva increased in the thickness one after another. Each layer is 10 times bigger than the previous one, and the final outside layer is covered by the Pradhana within this egg, in the universal form of the Lord Hari, of whose body the 14 planetary systems are parts. Text 53. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Virat Purasa, situated himself in that golden egg, which was lying on the water, and he divided it into the many departments. Text 54. First of all, a mouth appeared in him, and then came forth the origin of the speech, and with it the god of fire, the deity who presides over that organ. Then a part of the nostril appear, and in them appeared the olfactory senses as well as the prana, the vital air. Text 55. In the wake of the olfactory sense came the wind god, who presides over the senses. Thereafter, the pair of eyes appeared in the universal form, and in them the sense of sight. In the wake of this sense came the sun god, who presides over it. Next, there appeared in him a pair of ears, and in them the auditory senses, and in its awake the dig devatas, or the deities who presides over the directions. Text 56. Then the universal form of the Lord, the Virat Purusha, the manifestation, his skin, and thereupon the hair, mustache, and the beard appeared. After this, all the herbs and drugs became manifested, and his glenitins glenitals also appeared. Text 57. After this, semen, the flexury of the procreation, and the god who presides over the waters appeared. Next appeared an anus, and then the organs of the disinfections, and thereupon the god of death, who is feared throughout the universe. Text 58. Thereafter, the two hands of the universal form of the Lord became manifested, and with them the power of grasping and dropping things. And after that, the Lord Indra appeared. Next, the legs became manifested, and with them in the process of movement. And after the Lord Vishnu appeared. Text 59. The veins of the universal body became manifested, and thereafter the red corpuscles or blood in their wake came the river, the deities presiding over the veins, and then appeared an abdomen. Text 60th. Next grew feelings of hunger and thirst, and in their wake came the manifestation of the oceans. Then an heart became manifest, and in the wake of the heart, the mind appeared. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you so much, Radharani Mataji. So it's a nice section. I'll offer my prayers first. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desatarini. Okay. So today's section will cover the brief context and go into the section itself. Overall bigger context is in the last chapter, Mother Devhuti, who is the mother of Kapil Dev, who is the incarnation of Supreme Lord himself, asked three questions. One was about bhakti, the ultimate goal. She asked what is the right way to practice bhakti. And then, of course, Kapil Dev explained in detail that Bhava Bhakti is the best to perform, or Raganuga Bhakti is best to perform. And then if one is not able to do that spontaneously currently, then they should follow the rules and regulations of Bhakti, doing the Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, like what we hear in Nectar devotion. And then that way, we can develop that Bhava, our spontaneous emotions, our spontaneous devotional feelings towards the Supreme Lord, like that. And then Mother Devhuti also asked Kapila about, please explain about Gnana and Yoga also. So now, in this chapter, 26th chapter, we're hearing answer to that Gnana question. That means she asked about Gnana, right? That's why Kapil Dev is explaining the Sankhya Yoga, which is considered like Gnana. So Gnana is what? Understanding what is what in terms of different elements of matter and spirit and distinction between them, like that. So Sankhya Yoga is Gnana, means giving the knowledge. But more importantly, like Chaitanya Chandra Prabhu also discussed in previous classes also, last class. So Sankhya Yoga, the main element, that is the additional element or the key element is how these elements are related to Supreme Lord, how they are originated from Supreme Lord, how Supreme Lord is instrumentive. Supreme Lord is the cause for all these intermediate causes, like that. How Supreme Lord is the ultimate cause. That is what that focus is kept within the analysis of the Sankhya Yoga. Unlike general Gnana, that focus may not be there, that how Supreme Lord is the source. But here, the focus is kept how Supreme Lord involvement and Supreme Lord uh, initiation is what caused the creation at various stages, like that. That's the key element that's being discussed. So, while describing Sankhya Yoga, Kapil Dev is going through the creation process. The primary creation process are called sarga, and the secondary creation process that will come out. But primarily is focusing on sarga now, primary creation, which is the creation of the foundational elements of the material world, which is done by Supreme Lord Himself. That portion is going through, but however, that was discussed already in second canto and third canto in terms of creation. So what is special about this section is explaining the characteristics of each of the material element now. That is the only thing special here. And before he started describing the Sankhya Yoga, he told the benefits that will come by hearing this knowledge of Sankhya. What were the benefits in the first few verses itself we learnt? One is, I'll become free from the influence of gunas, material modes, three modes of nature. That's a big thing, because only by the influence of the three modes, we start identifying with the body, and we start identifying things in the created material nature as a mind, like that aham mameti conception. Only because of that, I'm struggling in this birth and death cycle. Because when I have the conception of I am this body and things related to the body or mind, then my aspirations, desires are all related to how to take care of the body, how to take care of things related to body. There's nothing about the soul or a relationship with Krishna anymore. So that's why we create karma, and that creates reactions. So to take care of the reactions, to experience the reactions, whether it's enjoyment or suffering, based on the good karma we do or bad karma we do, we need to take another body again to experience that reactions of the karma. So that's what is going on. That's why he's saying, when we have this knowledge, we can become free from the influence of the modes, number one. Number two, we can attain perfection in self-realization also. And number three, cut the knot of attachment to material world. So how is this possible, one may wonder, when we hearing this knowledge? First of all, is knowledge coming from Supreme Lord. So that itself brings purification. Second, when we understand how these are not me, this body made of material elements is not me, how these things that I'm seeing are not mine. When we understand that, how Supreme Lord is the source of everything, then that can bring in the detachment, and that can bring in the understanding that I'm bewildered currently. I need to be situated in right knowledge, like that. That is what that will help us. Of course, for a bhakti yogi or practicing devotees like us, our main practice is to do a sadhana bhakti involving chanting and hearing and remembering Krishna. Through that, also, we get to the gradual realization. For some of us, it can be gradual. For some of us, it can be even very quick also. This self-realization, and then that is followed by God realization, like Prabhupada says always. So that is the intent in which is describing this knowledge to help her understand and contrast with bhakti. Yeah. So it's not that he's recommending to practice this Sankhya Yoga for all of us, or nor Devati also, because that becomes clear in the coming chapters also. Remember, the previous chapter he already confirmed bhakti is the best way to attain perfection. Now he's describing Jnana in this chapter, and then the coming chapter is describing the yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, and then finally concludes with bhakti again, so that there's no confusion. So that is why scriptures are understood in a bigger context. Otherwise, somebody takes one verse, look, Kapil Dev is the incarnation of Supreme Lord. He's telling us to practice Sankhya Yoga. Like that, somebody may think. That's why it's important with the help of Guru and Sadhu, we understand the bigger context of the scriptures and what is that particular section talking about and why. Yeah. So with that understanding of the context, now in the last several verses in this chapter, Kapil Dev has been describing the characteristics of different elements that were created originally. Started with Pradhana, and then it went to Mahatattva, and then different Ahankara, false ego, and then false ego in interaction with the three modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance, different senses, sense objects, and sense devatas, they're all created. Like that is described. Yeah. So that characteristics were described so far, so that you can identify. Why is that characteristics important again? For example, when we discuss about characteristics of mind, it was described how mind has a tendency to accept and reject. So when we observe in our own life, oh, I thought I will eat that, and now again I'm thinking I'm not eating. I don't want to eat. I thought I will start reading Bhagavad Gita every day. I thought I don't want to read Bhagavad Gita every day. So when we see this flip flop in our life, in our thought process, in our desires, then we need to understand that is happening at the mind platform, and it's not me. It's not that I don't want to read Bhagavad Gita, I want to read Bhagavad Gita. These opposites, accepting, rejecting, is coming from the mind platform. When we understand and identify that is happening in the mind, then I'm distant from the mind. I'm a soul, not mind. This is the first step. When we can recognize that, then I can exercise my intelligence to deal with what mind is proposing as a third party. Otherwise, if I think I want to do this, whatever mind proposes, everything, I want to enjoy this way, I want to enjoy that way, mind proposes. Then if I identify with that, I cannot have separation. I cannot bring intelligence in the picture to deal with it. But when we identify mind as a third person in this description, then we can understand, oh, mind is proposing like this. Then we can bring intelligence into picture and thoughtfully respond to that demand of the mind at that particular time. But if I identify with the mind myself, then I cannot respond. I will only react thinking, this is me. I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to be true to myself like that. That's why this knowledge is helpful to understand what is coming from where. For example, when we react, another example about false ego, right? Like how when we react disproportionately, when we react inappropriately to any behavior from somebody else, then we can understand this is not coming from soul platform. It's coming from the false ego that I want to show up as a controller like that. Or we other place we also saw that when I'm thinking I'm the doer, then when somebody says somebody takes credit for the work, then I don't feel bad. I feel bad because I think I'm the doer. But when we understand that we are all able to do whatever we do because of the resources given by Krishna, because of support by so many devotees. Otherwise, I cannot do myself. When we understand that, then we are not affected by that anymore. That is the other reason this is important to understand this knowledge of the characteristics of different elements. Yeah. So now with that background, we'll go to today's section. Actually, it's the last verse that is describing the section about characteristics of different sense objects, tanmatras, and the five gross elements: earth, water, fire, air, and ether. This is the last verse, but I'll briefly summarize because I'll not go through each verse, but I will show you. I just prepared a quick slide showing what these verses are talking about. Last few verses are talking about. So that way, otherwise, a lot of words speaking, it may not make so much sense. But when you're seeing, hopefully, it makes sense. So basically, uh, this is just a recap from the previous section because the last verse is talking about this aspect. So what we heard is overall, from bigger picture, from the subtle things, gross things are coming. Number one point. That means from sound, ether or a sky is coming. And from sky, touch is coming. From touch, air is coming. Like that, we hear all these different things. One principle is from subtle thing, gross thing manifests. That is one principle. Second principle is that as we grow, as the elements are coming across in creation, one after another, each element has the characteristic of the previous element also included. That is what today's verse is talking about. Today's verse is from 49, right? Okay. From 49 verse, what we are hearing is this. These last few bullets are summarizing what is there in the purport of Srila Prabhupada. I just put it in this form, but nothing is same exact words of Srila Prabhupada. Basically, from sound, which is subtle element, sky is coming. So sky now has the characteristic of sound within it. That is the only one characteristic it has. Yeah, that is one point Prabhupada is making. Now, from this sky, air is originating, but this air not only has the new characteristics of touch, but it also has the previous characteristics of sky, which is sound also. That means now air has the unique characteristics of touch and then also previous characteristics of sky, which is sound. Both of them is there. That is the point being made. That means next element has the characteristics of previous element also. That is the principle we're trying to show here. So to explain that, Prabhupada goes through every detail, next element like that. Essentially, fire has not only the form characteristic, but also the sound and touch included. Water has not only the fire characteristics, sound, touch and form, but also taste as unique characteristics. Similarly, earth has all the water related characteristics, sound, touch, form, taste, but also has a new characteristics of smell. That's what this verse is indicating, and Prabhupada is nicely summarizing in the purport for our benefit. That is another point to note. So now going to next section, 50th verse onwards. 50th verse onwards, what we are hearing is, what we are reading and hearing is that, let me go to the next slide. Yeah. Okay, before I come to this slide, I think we'll cover 3 more verses, going to 54 verse. So basically, in the 50th verse onwards, we are hearing one important element or important principle. What is an important principle? That this is not happening mechanically. So far we are hearing from this came, from this came, like that. Cause and effect like that. From this cause came this effect, this became cause, and this gives another effect like that, right? Somebody may think it's mechanically happening. So what is important element coming now is the Supreme Lord's involvement, Supreme Lord's empowerment is focused on this set of next verses now. So that is what is showing up in 50. Let me go to 50 verse. 50 verse is saying, when all these elements are created, good, but they're all separate, not mixed yet. They're all like Gauranga Darshan Prabhu nicely gives an analogy for this. Basically, when somebody wants to make a curry or sabji, they're trying to cook in the kitchen, then they get all the ingredients, vegetables, spices, water, oil, all the ingredients they bring. Now, at this stage, it's like somebody started cooking and all the ingredients are there without any mixing like that. That is the stage he describes like that. But then after the ingredients come, the person cooking, what does he do? He mixes the ingredients at appropriate time, appropriate proportion like that, right? And then he starts cooking starts the fire and starts doing different activities to create the actual curry or sabji, whatever we call it, yeah, to cook something. Similarly, when all these elements were separately available, unmixed, Supreme Personality of Godhead enters along with the kala, time, karma, work, and gunas, the 3 modes of material nature. Then at that time the activity starts, like how when cook is starting the cooking, like that when Supreme Lord enters with all these 3 different other elements, then the creation further goes on like that. That's a key element to capture. What is the key element to capture? That this is not happening mechanically, but because of the Supreme Lord and his energies, this is happening. So that's what is discussed in in this purport. Prabhupada is emphasizing that not only the Supreme Lord is within each universe, but he also enters into within each atom, and he's in the heart of every living entity also. That's what Prabhupada writes in the purport. Of course, we heard about Purushottaras long time ago also, that how when Supreme Lord enters into universe is called Garbhodak Sai Vishnu. And then when he enters into each atom as a super soul and each living being as a super soul, he is called as Shiro Sai Vishnu. We heard that before also. Prabhupada is mentioning that also in this purport now. Now in the 51st verse, then what happens after Supreme Lord enters is describing. First of all, a unintelligent, unintelligent word is used. Egg came, from which appeared the celebrated cosmic being. What is the celebrated cosmic being? The Virata Purusha, Virata Rupa of the Lord has come out, it seems. So Prabhupada writes in the purport, only after after the Supreme Lord entered, the matter got agitated, he describes. And that is the cause of creation. He gives another analogy. Like somebody is a potter is trying to make a brick, he describes. So then to make the brick, what are the elements that are required? Some clay or mud is required. Some water is required. And then heating, fire is required. When the clay mixed with water and then heat is provided with fire, then it will become a brick like that, right? So with that example, Prabhupada is describing that only when a person comes and he starts doing the work of mixing things and then starting the heat, then only the brick will shape up. Similarly, the material world does not develop unless agitated by Supreme Lord as the Virata Purusha, like that is describes. So now the transition point to note here is, after Supreme Lord entered, he manifested his Virata Purusha also. That's the one point. So now in the next verse, 52 verse, this universal egg is called the manifestation of Prakriti or material energy. And this universe is a hollow of space inside, and then on the outside layer of universe, like how egg has a shell around it, like that there are 7 layers around the earth itself, around the universe itself, like that is described here. And each of these layers, as successively go, is 10 times thicker than the previous layer. What are those layers? Here in the translation itself is described: layers of water, air, fire, sky, ego, and Mahatatva. And then also Pradhana is also the last layer is described like that. So these are unimaginable because the first layer itself is 10 times than the diameter of the whole universe, it seems. And then next layer is even 10 times than that one itself. So it's such a big, enormous calculations basically in the overall space like that. So now here Prabhupada writes, within this egg-like universe is the universal form of the Lord as the Virata Purusha. And all the different planetary systems are parts of his body. Remember in the previous cantos, we already discussed Virata Rupa in several different ways. One way is that in terms of different planetary systems within the universe like that. So that's what is being discussed in that context here. How Prabhupada writes in the purport, the Patala Loka is considered like the soles of the feet of the Supreme Lord. And the earth is considered to be the belly of the Supreme Lord. And then Brahma Loka, the topmost Loka in the middle world, is considered like the head of the Supreme Lord in the Virata Purusha form, of course. So now, other point Prabhupada makes in the purport is, this Virata Purusha is not the all in all. The original Adi Purusha is Krishna, Supreme Lord. From him, this Virata Purusha is one incarnation of him like that. And then other point Prabhupada makes is, the universe we are in is a smaller one relatively. That's why our Brahma has only 4 heads. Whereas there are many other universes where Brahma has hundreds of heads, it seems. That means that universe size is also bigger. Like that Prabhupada writes about in the purport. Going to 53rd verse, so that universe was lying on the water, and this Virata Purusha situated in that universe, in each of the universe, he divided into many departments is described. Now, this way I will share the slide again from 54 to 61 verse. Today with 60th verse is the last one. Basically, essential creation is being described from the Virata Purusha, Virata Rupa form of the Lord, which came from the Supreme Lord himself when he entered the universe. What is that? First of all, in the Virata Rupa, mouth appears. That the gross sense organs appears in the Virata Rupa. And from that, subtle sense organ of speech comes within that. Notice in the previous creation, from the subtle element, gross element came. But here the order is reversed. First gross sense organ of Virat Rupa comes, then the subtle sense organ comes in this stage of creation. And then not only that, but also the sense devata or the presiding deity who controls that particular sense is also appearing, which is fire god, it seems, who controls the mouth. So the way to understand this also is the physical gross sense organ that we have currently. Behind that, there is a subtle sense organ also. One common example given is, I have the ability to walk because of my legs, I think currently. Because of legs, gross sense organs, I'm able to walk. But there's a power of locomotion, that is a subtle sense that is there within me. That's why even if my leg, if my leg goes away for some reason, then somebody can walk with an artificial leg because they have subtle sense of locomotion still there, like that. So that's what is process of movement here. It's called subtle sense. So like that, and then there's a deity controlling it. Not that I am able to walk, I'm able to talk. Is not because of me, but there's a devata that is assisting me to speak, assisting me to walk, like that. So that's what is described in the next set of verses, showing that from each of these gross organs, and what is the subtle sense that came out, and what is the sense devata that came out. So I'll not read through all of this, but essentially what is the understanding to get is creation is possible because of the Supreme Lord at every stage. Where Supreme Lord's involvement is every stage, either directly or indirectly. He is the ultimate cause, whereas material nature may be the intermediate cause, like that. That is the key understanding we get from this section, so that we understand that we utilize our senses and everything we have in the service of Krishna. That is the main objective of going this section for us practicing devotees, at least. Yeah. So we'll pause there. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kupasindubhyev cha paditana pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Thank you so much, devotees. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much.